All right, we just spent 3 hours talking about our favorite TV and our favorite movies from 2020. Whole bunch of picks, but there's still some stuff that we wanted to talk about. We didn't want to let it slip through the cracks, so we're talking about some of our underrated gems from 2020, the movies that we couldn't stop thinking about, even if they didn't necessarily appear on our best of list or our honorable mentions list. I know for me, there's a bunch of movies that I thought were really special, even if they didn't necessarily blow me away. There was aspects to them that I thought were unique and worth celebrating, and I was really happy to get the chance to watch them. One of those movies for me is The Climb, directed by Michael Angelo Covino. This is a movie that kind of was bouncing around the festival circuit for a little while. It's a really interesting look at a friendship that evolves over many years as they go through ups and downs, both the characters and their friendship going through ups and downs. I liked this long-term look at the way that a friendship develops. I think we've maybe had some movies that are a little more focused on family relationships or romantic relationships and how they evolve through the years, but there's also something to the way that two friends, even friends who may not necessarily be the right fit for one another, how that relationship can grow and change and work through ups and downs of your life. And also, I think it's a movie that had a pretty interesting style of direction, too, with these long shots, these long takes that leave you in the moment with the characters. I think it's something that impressed me both on a technical level and on the writing level. I think it was a really good script and a really interesting story. So, yeah, The Climb is definitely one of the movies that I wanted to make sure I spotlight because it's a really interesting story. I know, Amanda, you like this one as well.
Yeah, I would have put it on this list, and maybe I still can if we really want to speed this along. But okay, let's do that. I really ended up liking this. I caught it at Sundance this year. And it's just one of those things. It's so funny, like right from the get-go, like something happens and it gets you right from there as you're watching this super like tumultuous relationship between these lifelong friends, and you're kind of left wondering like, why are they friends at all? And it just keeps winding, but I'm really excited to see it again, and it stayed with me since I saw it, which I always think is a good sign.
Awesome. Art, tell me about one of your picks.
I saw so many docs this year, but there was one that stood out that I hope gets a nice little push called Cane Fire. It's a story about Hawaii and how it's been used throughout for various different, things, from filming to the way that it's been occupied and inhabited. I was able to catch this one at Indie Memphis, and I thought it did a great job. There's been a lot of tinier docs. Chicago had The Road Up, and there was Waging Change, which is a good one about tipping. But this is one of those docs that I wish had a little bit more of a push, because I think it's a beautiful look at the changes Hawaii has gone through and everything that's changed from it becoming a state, but also how it's been reflected on film. That's like the craziest part of the documentary, is that it goes back and it shows you all of this footage of how it's been captured, how it's been shown to you, but that's not necessarily how Hawaiians see it. Mm-hmm. Fascinating doc. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's not one that's really on my radar, so I'm going to have to try and catch up with that one as well. I'll throw out another recommendation here, which is Quentin Dupieux's Deerskin. It starred Jean Dujardin and Adele Haenel. It's just really interesting, quirky story about a man who becomes obsessed with this designer deerskin jacket, and he becomes a little bit delusional about what this jacket represents and the kind of person it can make him seem to be. It's one of those stories with a character who likes to lie, and the lie gets him further and further into a situation, but I think it's just got this quirky energy to it, this really unique style that only a guy like Quentin Dupieux would make, that just kept surprising me and gave me some really fun, dark laughs. It takes a certain turn halfway through the movie that I thought was hysterical in a perverse way. I know maybe Art would pick Mandibles, another movie that he had earlier this year.
Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch that one, but I really loved Deerskin. I know we turned on Taylor J. Williams to it too, who also really liked this one.
So I liked it a lot too.
Yeah. So it's just one of those underrated movies that's going to slip through the cracks. Only 77 minutes long, but really a delight. Worth your time.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That and Buffalo were like those comedies that
I gotta check out Buffalo
in the background, but never really caught on to the mainstream, but were still really good.
Yeah. I need
Absolutely.
to check that out. Recommendation from me. I kind of mentioned it a little bit when we were talking about the best movies, but I'm going to throw it Unpregnant. I just thought it was really charming, really fun. Considering the subject matter, I keep using the word fun, but it's literally about a girl she's traveling across state lines to get an abortion because she can't do it in her own state because she wouldn't be able to get one without letting her family know. And I think it also just turns into like a really interesting look. What it does that never really, sometimes always doesn't really get into it. It deals a little bit more with that fallout of family, because she's kind of on a journey with her best friend, and there's the dynamic of like the struggles that the best friend's having too. But it was still just a really kind of like uplifting movie considering the subject matter, and I definitely think people should check it out.
Nice.
Yeah, sort of the reverse side of never really, sometimes always, I guess. But
it really is.
In other words, to check out. Art, what else you got?
This year was great for these independent thrillers. There was a couple of out there that did make my list, but I would say White Lie was one that we were able to catch at a couple of film festivals. It showed up at Philly and I believe Newfest. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I would highly recommend checking it out because it's about this girl who's lying about having a condition, I'll say that much. I'm not sure how much it spoils in the trailer, but it's one lie after another lie after another lie, and these aren't just lies to her loved ones. This is lies to institutions to be able to get funding of some kind, and she's always having to pull a Cartman, hiding one lie with another lie. I think it's fantastic, and it's up there with other thrillers like A Good Woman Is Hard to Find. That again, this would have been the time to catch these movies, and now without them, like, if more stuff was coming out, these would have been buried completely. But I know this one's available, I believe, on VOD. I'm hoping so.
Oh, really?
It's Canadian,
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
I think so, too. Yeah. It's a really interesting one. It's one of those movies that takes you, like, step by step as you watch this woman's life completely unravel. And I liked the minutia in how it approached this story, how you see just like, you see this lie slipping through her fingers, right?
Her performance is never boring.
Absolutely. Amanda, do you have one more?
I do have one more. My last for my third, I'll put The Kid Detective. I just caught this the other day. I'm a big Adam Brody fan. Like, I've loved him since I was like really sick for 2 weeks out of school and watching the OC on a marathon nonstop. I've been a huge fan of him, and I want to see him in more leading roles. This is just kind of like an interesting movie about this guy who's now an adult, but when he was younger started getting a bunch of notoriety for solving these local cases and stuff, and then one really bad thing happens that he isn't even given the opportunity to really solve, and it basically paints the rest of his life. You end up with one of these like failed child prodigy situations, but the last 30 minutes really weave it together, and when it comes around full circle with everything. So I had a fun time with it, and I think it's something that I think most people would enjoy it if they checked it out.
It has a really cool premise. Has a pretty cool premise and a pretty good trailer, if I remember correctly. I was curious about this one, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you should.
My last pick here is a movie that, in some ways, I feel like is similar to my number one choice of the year, Minari, because it's also the story of a young boy. But to me, I think the difference is that this one has major only child energy, which I know from experience. There's like a particular kind of only child experience. I'm going with Andrew On's Tribeca award-winning film Driveways, which of course stars Hong Chow and the last performance from the late Brian Dennehy as well, who I'm still hoping Brian Dennehy picks up a supporting actor nomination at the Oscars. But I just love how this story is about this kid sort of looking for answers and trying to find his way in like a big scary world. He's in an unfamiliar setting when he and his mom go to the house of her dead sister to try and clear it out. She becomes friends with the next door neighbor who's a veteran of the Korean War, and there's other kids in the neighborhood, but he doesn't know how to play with them. And I think it really gets to that occasional loneliness, that certain type of loneliness that you can get when you're a young child and you don't really know what to do with yourself, right? I think it's a really beautifully told story about a particular aspect of childhood that I don't know if I've seen documented commented a lot, and I related a lot to aspects of this story. I thought it was just one of those very precious movies that is special in its own way. There's not like a lot technically that is mind-blowing about this, but it's such a well-told story. I loved Driveways.
I'm glad you
that one's
mentioned
available on Hoopla, which we mentioned a lot. So all you need is a library card, and you can catch this.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this one because they do just little things that it's the directing and it's the acting where these are like real characters where he knows what to do when his mom throws out the cigarette without
our girl Hung Chow.
She killed it. Fantastic.
That was great.
Yeah. Art, what's your last pick?
Dude, you just mentioned like a small drama. There's so many great dramas that came out, but I got one in particular. But shout out Papicha, shout out Residue, shout out Freeland, shout out St. Francis, but shout out The Killing of Two Lovers, the movie I missed at Sundance that I got the chance to catch at a festival, and it blew me away. It's a very simple story. It is Marriage Story, but they're not rich. It's Marriage Story, but they're not in LA or New York. They are in Utah. And it's not just about this like marriage that it's not so much that it's falling apart, but they're growing apart. They're growing in completely different ways. And you get to see both perspectives, which Marriage Story does very well as well. But this is just way more stripped down and independent. You almost feel like the entire thing is improv, but it's all written down. Even the performances from the kids are fantastic because they're the director's own kids. A lot of the sequences that you see here, it's shots that don't cut away. It is all on the performance. And that damn score. You're wondering, what are those noises? And they have a whole featurette, so I won't spoil what it is, but it is using the environment of the world for the score in and of itself. I wish I had the chance to see this on a bigger screen. It looks beautiful, especially with the aspect ratio that it has right there in the beautiful snowy Utah. And it's also a story not just of this family and marriage, but also kind of like that part of America. And I want to talk about it more with you guys once you guys get the chance to catch it. The Killing of Two
I'm so
Lovers.
excited to see it.
Yeah, I've got a screener sitting in my inbox, so I'm definitely going to catch up with that one soon so we can talk about it.
I can't wait.
Hook me up with the links for, the emails. Hook me up with the email so I can ask for a link.
Yeah. All right, so there's a lot of great movies that came out this year. Just wanted to give you a few extra ones, the ones that maybe won't be showing up on a lot of best of lists, but are totally worth your time, and make sure you should catch before it gets too late. They go away forever.
Disappeared.
Yeah, you can only watch 2020 movies in 2020.
That's it.
We're probably going to put this video out in 2021. I don't know.